Heady Rhythm AI News episode. Did ChatGPT go full PG-13? Yo, what's good, everyone? Welcome back to Heady Rhythm AI News, the show where we talk AI without the corporate filter. And speaking of filters, did ChatGPT just go full no-NSFW? Some of y'all on Reddit noticed. You try to make a photo of a couple kissing or write a romantic scene, and suddenly your AI is acting like a Sunday school teacher. So what happened? Did OpenAI tighten the leash, or are they just testing how far they can clean up the sandbox before people notice? Let's start with what we're seeing. Over the last few weeks, users started reporting that prompts involving romance, affection, or even mild intimacy were getting flagged. Stuff that used to slide, like two lovers under the rain, or a cinematic kiss scene, now triggers a policy violation. But here's the weird part. Not everyone's getting the same filter. Some accounts can still generate soft romance shots, while others can't even get a hand-holding image through. That means either there's A/B testing happening, or OpenAI is running different moderation layers depending on region, plan, or rollout phase. Basically, you and your friend could type the same prompt and get totally different results. So, why would they do this? The obvious reason? Legal risk. As AI tools start spitting out hyper-realistic images, the company's got to protect itself from lawsuits, especially with all the noise around AI likeness, deepfakes, and adult image ethics. By cutting off NSFW and romantic stuff altogether, they remove one of the biggest liability zones. But let's be honest, there's also brand control. OpenAI wants to look like the clean, family-friendly face of AI. The same way Apple doesn't want porn apps in the App Store, OpenAI doesn't want NSFW content in ChatGPT. It's not just about safety, it's about optics, the investors, the schools, the enterprise deals. They don't want the word ChatGPT trending next to NSFW in the same sentence. But here's where it gets real. This shift hits AI artists and storytellers the hardest. People who use AI to explore emotion, relationships, or human intimacy suddenly can't access that full creative spectrum. You can make a photorealistic robot in a jungle, but not two humans falling in love? That's not just a filter. That's a creative blindfold. And what's worse, there's no transparency. No public statement, no warning. Just quiet updates to the safety model, and boom, your art becomes restricted. It makes you wonder, if they can silently restrict this, what's next? Politics, spirituality, certain body types, certain words? The slippery slope isn't porn, it's invisible control. Now, I'm not saying we need NSFW chaos everywhere, but there's a bigger question here. Are AI companies filtering morality or managing liability? Because if it's the second one, we're not dealing with censorship. We're dealing with corporate pre-crime. Companies anticipating what might get them sued and deleting it before you even create it. Which means, in a weird way, your AI assistant is becoming more like a lawyer than a muse. And if you've ever tried to make art with a lawyer standing over your shoulder, you already know how that story ends. So what do you think? Is ChatGPT becoming too safe or just too scared? All right, so while OpenAI is busy putting filters on creativity, Spotify's been using AI quietly since before it was even trendy. Everyone talks about the algorithms, but let's rewind. Spotify's entire advantage, cheap access, endless discovery, smooth recommendations, was built on AI long before ChatGPT existed. Back in the mid-2000s, they were already training machine learning models to predict what songs you'd love next, down to the mood, tempo, and even time of day. That Discover Weekly playlist? Straight up early neural network magic. Primitive AI code, sure, but the blueprint was there. And that's how they beat everyone else. Apple, Pandora, Tidal. Not through star power, but through personalization. Spotify realized something that today's AI companies are still figuring out. You don't need the best product, you need the smartest feedback loop. Fast forward to 2025, and the irony is wild. Every major AI company, from OpenAI to Midjourney, is just now chasing the kind of subscription model Spotify perfected a decade ago. Low fees, mass adoption, endless micro-interactions that train the system with user behavior. Spotify didn't just sell music, they sold data-driven identity. You pay them to learn about you, and that loop. Listen, adapt, recommend, repeat is exactly how generative AI tools survive today. The only difference is Spotify did it with playlists, while AI companies are doing it with prompts. So when we talk about AI envy, it's not about features. It's about monetization DNA. Spotify built its entire business on predictive creativity, and now companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google DeepMind are realizing, oh, this is what a subscription AI ecosystem actually looks like. Not per prompt pricing, not paywalls, but millions of tiny signals feeding one big model. Spotify didn't just stream music, they streamed learning. So whether it's ChatGPT cleaning up the sandbox or Spotify quietly winning the AI marathon, one thing's clear. The new frontier of AI isn't about who's smartest, it's about who listens best. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think Spotify's been the real AI pioneer all along? Because while tech companies are playing PR chess and raising paywalls, Stanford University just dropped a bomb, one of the best public resources ever created for learning how large language models actually work. It's called the Stanford Center for Research on Foundation Models, CRFM for short, and they just released a massive open source educational suite and dataset library for building and analyzing LLMs. And listen, this isn't just another AI course. This is basically a full roadmap of how to understand, train, and evaluate models like GPT, Claude, or Gemini, written by the same kind of researchers who helped build the field itself. The cool part? It's free. You don't need to be enrolled at Stanford. The lectures, guides, and even the data sources are open. If you've ever wanted to peek behind the curtain, like really understand how language models talk, reason, and adapt, this resource is your golden ticket. We're talking walkthroughs on tokenization, attention mechanisms, bias auditing, evaluation metrics, all broken down in a way that doesn't feel like academic torture. Why does that matter? Because 2025 is the year everyone's using AI, but barely anyone understands it. Tools keep getting fancier, interfaces simpler, but the literacy gap is growing. Stanford's drop gives creators, developers, and even small business owners a real shot at understanding how the tech under their apps actually works. And that's power, because when you know how something's built, you can remix it, not just consume it. This is what open source should look like. Honestly, seeing something like this reminds me that not every part of AI has to be about censorship, lawsuits, or billion-dollar branding. Some of it's still about curiosity, about teaching the next generation how to think for themselves. And that's the most dangerous kind of freedom there is. So, ChatGPT tightens the filters, Spotify monetizes the loop, and Stanford opens the gates. That's AI in 2025. Controlled, commercial, and curious. All right, here's something interesting. A new OpenAI paper finds that around 80% of ChatGPT usage falls into just 3 categories: practical guidance, how-to advice, seeking information, questions and facts, and writing, drafting, editing, translating. In other words, we're mostly using ChatGPT like an ultra-polite, hyper-fast Google Plus writing assistant. Let's dig into what that means. So, the paper, How People Use ChatGPT, September 2025, from OpenAI plus academics looked at message logs from May 2024 to June 2025 and classified conversations in a privacy-preserving way. Their key finding: practical guidance, seeking information, and writing collectively account for nearly 80% of all ChatGPT conversations. Some breakdowns: practical guidance, user asks for personalized advice, how-to stuff, planning, life hacks. Seeking information, more like web search, facts, names, dates, open questions. Writing, drafting, editing, translating, even summarizing text. They also measured intent types: about 49% asking, 40% doing, 11% expressing. The doing ones often map to writing tasks. Interestingly, usage outside of work, non-work messages, has grown faster. By June 2025, over 70% of messages are non-work related. So what are we doing really? Turns out we're leaning on ChatGPT as a decision helper / advice engine, practical guidance, a smarter search engine, seeking information, a writing co-pilot / editor, writing. That means we rarely use it for wild stuff: code, creative generative art, role play, or emotional therapy. Those are tiny slices of usage. It's not so much that ChatGPT replaced Google, but it upgraded it. We talk to it politely, get context, personal adjustments, Follow-ups. It's the search tool that talks back and helps you sculpt the answer. But there's also a risk. If 80% of usage is in the safe zones, then the extreme, expressive, or edge use cases are either suppressed or marginalized. It begs the question, are we turning AI into just a utility rather than a creative partner? Personally, I see this as both opportunity and constraint. Opportunity. The fact that people are gravitating toward these categories shows where real everyday value lies. Everyone needs info, writing help, life advice. That's the mass market. If you build for that, you tap real demand. But constraint? We might be boxing ourselves in. If the interface policies or moderation push users toward only safe tasks, then explorative, emotional, taboo, or high-risk creative prompts get sidelined. Also, because these 80% use cases map so well to core AI models, text, narrative, logic, the big AI companies can optimize for them. That means lesser resources for the weird edges. So yeah, we're treating ChatGPT like a fast, polite Google plus ghostwriting engine. But is that all we want it to be? I don't think so. So yes, the data backs your intuition. We mostly use ChatGPT for everyday work, writing, and info. But don't let that limit your vision. Try pushing it. Ask something outside your comfort zone. See what it lets through. Drop your experiences below. What's the wildest prompt you've asked? Hit like if this made sense, sub if you want more real AI commentary, and I'll catch you next time on Heady Rhythm AI News, where we don't just use AI, we question it.